This is Grammar Points 5-2, Lesson 25, Pronoun Antecedents. Before talking about what an antecedent is, I want to remind you what pronouns are. Pronouns are smaller words in a sentence that take the place of a noun, which are people, places, or things. And we use pronouns so that we do not overuse nouns in a sentence. For this lesson, there are two types of pronouns. They are subject pronouns and object pronouns. There are other types of pronouns that we'll talk about later, but for this lesson, just remember subject and object pronouns. Subject pronouns generally occur before the verb. Object pronouns occur after the verb. For a subject pronoun example, we have I, you, he, she, it, we, they. For object pronouns, me, you, him, her, it, us, them. An example of I in a subject pronoun would be very simply, I played a game, or you went to the movies. For an object pronoun, I could say, he sent a letter to me, or I saw you at the park. Now, what exactly is an antecedent? If you look at the first sentence, Jane is happy that she is learning about the first moon landing. We see the noun Jane. It's a good idea that you identify where the verb is in a sentence. So find the verb, which is, and you also have a pronoun in the sentence, she. So she is a pronoun, and it is referring back to Jane. So Jane is very happy that Jane is learning about the first moon landing. But you don't want to keep saying Jane, Jane, Jane in the sentence, so we use a pronoun. Jane is happy that she is learning about the first moon landing. Because this pronoun is coming after the verb, it is then an object pronoun, not a subject pronoun. I'll talk about this again in a second, but it's also good to remember that Jane is also a girl or a woman. And when you use a female subject, you want to make sure that your pronoun also matches that. You wouldn't want to say Jane is happy that he is learning about the first moon landing unless Jane has a funny name. Look at the sentence below that. The Apollo 11 crew steadied rocks and brought them back to Earth. So here you have the Apollo 11 crew is the subject of the sentence. Steadied is the verb. What did they study? They studied rocks and brought them back to Earth. Oh, you've got another noun here, rocks. And then you've got a pronoun, them, back to Earth. The Apollo 11 crew studied rocks and brought them back to Earth. So this could be a little confusing because you've got the Apollo 11 crew is a noun in the sentence, and also rocks and Earth. The pronoun is always going to come after the noun, so we can say that Earth is not going to be the answer. Earth could not, them could not refer to Earth because Earth comes after the pronoun them. So it has to be either the Apollo 11 crew or rocks. So you look at the verb, and the Apollo 11 crew steadied rocks and brought them back to Earth. Which word could you replace? The Apollo 11 crew steadied rocks and brought the Apollo 11 crew back to Earth? Can they bring themselves back to Earth? Or the Apollo 11 crew steadied rocks and brought rocks back to Earth? That one makes more sense. So we can be pretty sure that them refers back to rocks. Also note that rocks is plural. There's an S on it. So the pronoun that's used also has to be a plural pronoun. It wouldn't be and brought it back to Earth. It's brought them back to Earth because there's more than one rock. Another reminder about gender and number. Gender means, is the subject or the noun that you're talking about male or female, a boy or a girl? Take a look at the first sentence again. Jane heard the teacher talking to him or her. Now, because these names are always or mostly going to be English names, some of them might be confusing for you. You might not know, is that a boy or a girl? If you are not sure and you're taking a test, it's a good idea to ask the teacher to make sure. In this case, Jane is a girl's name, so Jane heard the teacher talking to her, not him. Number, or whether or not the noun is plural or not, is also important. When you look at the sentence below, the boys read the letter that was mailed to him or them. Boys is a plural noun. You can see that there's an S here. It's a plural noun. So you have to make sure that the pronoun that matches the antecedent is also plural. So the boys read the letter that was mailed to them, not him, because him would just be a single noun. Here we're going to do some sample exercises. The first one says, during the show the actor forgot blank lines. Now, the word, you're looking for the subject in the sentence, and we have the actor. And actor, it is not clear if it's a man or a woman or a boy or a girl, but it is one. It's not actors, it's actor. So looking at the two choices over here, only one of them is a singular pronoun, and that's her. So there would not be the answer. During the show, the actor forgot her lines. Number 2, Joe and Mai left at 7 a.m. so blank wouldn't be late. The nouns in this sentence, or the subject in this case, is Joe and Mai, a compound subject. So you look at the pronoun choices here. Which of these two choices would match two nouns, or basically a plural subject? And between he and they, the answer has to be they. Joe and Mai left at 7 a.m. so they wouldn't be late. It can't be he because he would match only a single male or a boy noun. Number 3, Roberto gets good marks because blank studies hard. The noun in the sentence is Roberto, who's the subject. Roberto gets good marks because blank studies hard. Given the choices, they and he, Roberto is just one person, so they cannot be the answer, it can only be he. Roberto gets good marks because he studies hard. Number 4 is an example of a pronoun matching a pronoun antecedent in the previous sentence. You've got, in the first part, that box is heavy. So we're talking about a box, that's the noun. It's a singular noun. It's not male or female, it's a box. And then we go into the next sentence, don't lift blank. So given the choices, we've got a singular choice, it, and a plural pronoun, them. Since it is not a plural pronoun antecedent, we have to go with it. That box is heavy, don't lift it. If it was those boxes are heavy, then it might be don't lift them. Number 5, the children are eating lunches. We're missing a word here. Children is the noun. It's a plural noun. Even though it doesn't have an S, it's an irregular plural noun. So we know between our choices here, his and their. His is a singular male object pronoun, so that's not it. The answer has to be there. Number 6, the dog wagged blank tail. Dog is the noun. We don't really care so much in grammar if it's a boy dog or a girl dog. We tend to think of dogs in grammar as its. And it's a single noun, so the dog wagged blank tail. It can only be its because it is not multiple dogs, it is just one dog. Number 7, Emily brought a book with blank to read. Emily is the noun. You also got book here. Now this can be a little confusing. Emily brought a book with blank to read. You wouldn't say a book with a book to read. You just have to think if it makes sense or not. But who's bringing the book? Emily's bringing it for herself to read. And Emily, we know, is a singular noun, and Emily is a girl's name. But even if you don't know that, when you look at the choices over here, both she and her are pronouns connected with a female or a girl. But which one do we choose? In this case, you have to think about whether it is a subject pronoun or an object pronoun. And you do that by first identifying what is the verb in the sentence. In this case, it's brought. Emily brought a book with blank to read. Because the pronoun happens after the verb, then it has to be an object pronoun. She is a subject pronoun. Her is an object pronoun. Emily brought a book with her to read, so the answer is her. Number 8. Jack was so mad that blank screamed out loud. You've got a couple of verbs here. You've got was and you've got screamed. And the noun is Jack. So Jack is a single male. But looking over here, they're both male pronouns. So which one is going to go into the blank here to answer the question? Just because the pronoun is coming before a verb, before another verb, it has to be a subject pronoun. Because who screamed? You could say here, Jack screamed out loud. Jack was so mad that Jack screamed out loud. So which of these two pronouns would replace Jack in that sentence, in that part of the sentence, meaning just before a verb? And you'd have to say he, because his is an object pronoun, not a subject pronoun. Number 9, the girl washed blank hands. You've got the noun girl, you've got the verb here, which means that it's going to be an object pronoun following. So you've got two choices between there and her. Girl is just a single noun, so it can only be her. Number 10, only one letter arrived in the mail and blank was a bill. What do we have as far as nouns go? We've got a letter. In the mail, when you come across a prepositional phrase in the sentence, just cross it out because it will confuse you. Only one letter arrived and blank was a bill. So arrived is the verb. You're going to have an object pronoun here. Normally, in this case, you've got a verb here, was, so you need to have a subject pronoun before it. But looking at the choices, it doesn't matter. Letter is just a single letter. It even says one right there. So it's a single letter coming before a verb, which means it's going to be a subject pronoun, it. Number 11, the apples are red, but blank are not ripe yet. The subject, we've got apples are red. That's a complete independent sentence on its own, but blank are not ripe yet. You've got a comma and a conjunction, which means you're starting the second part of this compound sentence. So you do need a subject pronoun here, and you look back at the previous sentence to find the pronoun antecedent, and the only noun you've got here is apples, and it's a plural noun. It's got an S on it. So in this blank, we need to have a plural pronoun that is for subjects, and that means they. The apples are red, but they are not ripe yet. And finally, number 12, the cars moved so slowly that the bikes passed blank. You've got some nouns here. You've got cars and bikes. The cars moved so slowly that, you've kind of got a new part of the sentence here that'll need a new subject, that the bikes passed blank. So bikes is the new subject in this part of the sentence. Bikes passed something. What did the bikes pass? Well, the bikes didn't pass the bikes, and you've only got one other noun here, which is cars. So the bikes passed the cars. Which of these two pronouns will replace the cars? It has to be plural because cars is a plural noun. So between the choices them and it, only them is a plural, is a pronoun that would match a plural noun. So the answer is them. In closing, make sure that you remember 3 things. Make sure that you match the number. If the noun is a plural noun, make sure that the pronoun is a plural noun. Make sure that you match the gender. If you're not sure if the noun is if it's a name, if it's a boy's name or a girl's name, you could always ask the teacher. Make sure that the noun matches that. Also, the pronoun matches that. Also make sure that when you are choosing a pronoun, the correct pronoun, or you're writing in a pronoun, make sure you know if it is a subject pronoun or an object pronoun. And the best way to determine that is to look for the verb and see if the pronoun comes before or after the verb.